This program is brought to you by the following proud sponsors: Paulson Manufacturing, saving the eyes and lives of workers and first responders by manufacturing the highest quality and most reliable safety protective gear in the world. And by the Alltech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, creating powerful and innovative marketing strategies that deliver exponential returns.
With so many moving parts, your supply chain demands your attention. Every link in your chain needs to work for your company and your customers. So is yours helping you make money or costing you money? Today's guest will talk with us about the most important supply chain trends of 2015, and she'll break down some of the most common problems manufacturers are facing today, so you can start to address those types of issues in your company. We're talking supply chain with supply chain specialist Lisa Anderson on this edition of Manufacturer's Corner. Hello and welcome to Manufacturer's Corner. I'm Jeff Allen. If logistical issues and other supply-related problems are keeping you up at night, you've come to the right place as we focus on supply chain management with our guest, Lisa Anderson. Lisa is CEO, President of LMA Consulting Group. She's been recognized as the 16th most influential supply chain influencer by SAP. She serves as an advisory board member for the Advanced Supply Chain Certification Program at Cal State Fullerton's Extended Education. And in 2011, Ms. Anderson was inducted into the $1 Million Consultant Hall of Fame for her contributions to the consulting profession. Lisa Anderson, it's nice to have you as our guest. Welcome on in.
Hello.
Let's talk a little bit, first of all, about LMA Consulting. Give us kind of a sketch of what you do, what your company is all about.
Sure. I am a business consultant. I work with manufacturers and distributors to help them improve their bottom line performance, typically through supply chain type improvements to dramatically improve their service levels, cash flow, and profitability.
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today, is keying in on this. You know, there's kind of a theme that's been going on here on Manufacturer's Corner lately, and it's all about doing our best to help save manufacturers and manufacturing business owners money, and there have been a number of ways we've done. We've talked to Joe Mignoni about lean manufacturing. We've already talked a little bit about customer relationships and the impact that not having positive relationships with your customers can have. So now supply chain management, and it's such a huge part. It plays such an important role in the day-to-day operations. I mean, and like we talked about, so many different moving parts, and we can go on with for a very long time talking about all of the details involved. But when you go to your clients to consult with them on their supply chain management issues, what are they telling you? What are they concerned about?
Well, my clients have, they're in a new era in the last several years. Volatility is the new norm. So if there's anything that doesn't stay the same, it's happening at my clients. So given the fact that volatility is the new normal, they have to find ways to become more flexible and adaptable, and their supply chains need to be equipped to handle that effectively as well. If they're set up for volatility and to leverage volatility, they're going to be much more successful. Another thing that I see my every single client has an issue with today is time. No one has time. That ranges from executives not having time to make decisions to lead times, and that's one of the things that I see frequently is that if the customers are expecting products to be delivered far faster, 20% reduction in lead time is not uncommon, and 50% reduction is oftentimes expected.
And you know, again, as I mentioned earlier, we talked about customer relationships, and customers now are more demanding than ever because there is so much competition, and there's that need it now, right away kind of attitude. Yeah. And there have been so many companies that we could probably tick off on our hands that are responsible now for elevating that bar in terms of timeliness. And customer matters, I would imagine, is probably another significant one.
Oh, absolutely. Well. I mean, The Amazon effect. I talk quite a bit about that, and what I mean by that is exactly what you're saying, is that customers are expecting more for less yesterday, same day deliveries, next day deliveries, although it seems like that'd be more common in retail and
right.
With e-commerce, that type of thing. In manufacturing today, it's they're expecting that level of service, and they're expecting it today. They're also expecting for manufacturers to better understand their needs and to offer up products and services that would help them. So they're really expecting that Amazon effect type of quality of service in manufacturing.
Now, so let me ask you about that. In general terms, how are your clients, or from what you've read and from what you know from stories that are coming from all over the country, how are manufacturers dealing with that? Are they starting to catch on, or is it in some cases it's just kind of like, let the Amazon guys, let them have it. We're going to focus on quality, and if that means taking more time, then we're going to take more time to get the product out.
Well, those that are taking that attitude are finding that they aren't going to be successful very long. So they're having to change. They're finding out that it's imperative that they move forward and find ways to shorten their lead times, to improve their service levels, to get a better understanding of their customers, to get a better understanding of what their data is telling them so they can be more efficient. It's by no means easy to compete with that, because it does create some investment to shorten deliveries and improve service at times. However, there are also improvement programs. You mentioned Lean. There's sales and operations planning. There's collaboration with your customers and suppliers. It's finding the innovation in supply chain that's allowing them to be more competitive and succeed.
What kind of a role does talent play in all of these? What kind of concerns are there with regard to talent?
Well, there are significant concerns when it comes to talent. I did a survey with my through LMA Consulting Group, and we found that 87% of manufacturers and distributors are having significant issues in terms of finding talent. It's typically going to be the high-skilled talent that they're short on. And it could be for several reasons. What I'm finding is that one is that the people that they have there could still be the same people that they have today, but now that the requirements have become much more complex, as supply chains have become more complex, as these additional requirements for Amazon, like service, etc. So they're no longer enough. They either need to build their skills and bring on additional skills. Also, since the recession is winded down and folks are becoming more comfortable, I'm seeing that there isn't a day that goes by that I don't go into a client or into a board meeting, etc., where somebody has found a better opportunity, can work closer to home. Something has happened, they've decided to retire, and it's leaving significant skill gaps in the wake, especially since there aren't extra people like there may have been in historically.
Right, exactly. So we can see that everything has changed there, and we've talked so much on this program so far about those. You talked about skills gaps and about trying to fill those needs, whether it be from outside or trying to bring people up to speed that are already on board. And the issues too, where you've got folks who are getting older, they're on the verge of seeing the end of their service time, or they're getting ready to retire, and so they're not going to be able to fill those skills gaps either necessarily.
Absolutely. We're
looking at a kind of a list, as some of you are probably seeing too on your screens right now, of some of those items that the manufacturers say that they're concerned about when they talk to Lisa. And another one, obviously, which is very, very big, and I think it's becoming a bigger focus for many manufacturers in the region, is this need or desire to compete globally and go after that overseas business. How important and how much of a concern is that right now?
Well, that's significant. In today's economy, in today's manufacturing and distribution world, if you aren't thinking about becoming global, if you aren't already global, then you're missing the boat. Because typically speaking, in today's supply chains, you have to think about the supply chain as from your supplier to your customer's customer. And one way or another, that's going to take you global. Whether you have, a supplier that's global already, or somebody that supplies that supplier. One way or another, you're going to be thinking about, and you should start thinking about, the impacts of becoming global, which then leads to many other topics such as risks and how do we handle natural disasters, and there's all sorts of things to think about.
Well, we have a show coming up that's dedicated to globalization and globalizing manufacturing businesses, and that's what we're going to be talking about in a future program. But it's, as you say, it's a matter of being competitive, and it seems to me for American companies to be competitive, there's a huge market that's overseas. Demand is tremendous for American-made products.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I found that those clients that I work with that export significantly are going to be much more successful. It just, gives them another outlet. Like you said, the global market is really growing, so it's not only the supply side, it's also supplying our customers internationally. So it's really become a much more global environment, and it's important to think about your supply chain as not just your customer or supplier, but it's really part of you, because if you think about your end customer, your whole supply chain is going to affect how they think of you.
Really, really good points. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of move forward. I wanted to ask you, Lisa, about the 2 or 3 most common or predominant weaknesses that you see that manufacturers kind of share in supply chain today. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, some of the ones that I see most frequently is a lack of collaboration or seeing the value of collaboration. I mean, more and more I'm seeing clients that are improving in that area. It's absolutely critical. If you don't collaborate in today's environment, you won't be successful. So no matter how much they're collaborating, there always is an opportunity for more. But when I mean collaborate, I'm thinking look for the win-win. Look for 1 + 1 = 100 instead of 1 + 1 = 2. There's a lot of ways to be successful by working together.
Can you give us kind of an idea, because there may be individuals watching who think that they got everything on the ball and everything's right, but collaboration, they're not exactly sure how that idea, the principles of collaborating, can help them in their business. Can you give us kind of maybe an example of a situation where you've seen one of your clients or you've seen others collaborate with others in their supply chain to help kind of improve business overall?
Sure. Well, I can give you an example on the supply side and on the customer side. So in one of my clients, we were looking to improve the performance of the product, which went back to the raw materials. And so we collaborated with our suppliers and our customers to redesign and relook at the materials and at the packaging. And we were able to find lower cost materials that actually performed better, and the packaging also was smaller and better from a transportation standpoint. So it became like a win-win-win. On the customer side, I've worked with a lot of clients who collaborate with their customers. And so my clients, who are the manufacturer, and maybe sometimes the distributor, will work towards figuring out what to send to their customers for them. For example, Boeing, in terms of aerospace, might be their customer. And so we'd figure out what to send to all of Boeing's location to keep Boeing supplied at a high service level with lower inventories and without any work on their part. So from my customer's perspective, my client, it's a win-win-win, because now we can better manage my client's inventory and their customer's inventory. And we also can manage the service levels and profitability, because there's a lot of efficiencies involved in how you, the transportation, the warehousing, the manufacturing efficiencies that go along with it. So those are a couple of examples of how you can collaborate for, win-win-win, and goes to the bottom line.
Well, give us another common weakness or a kind of an item that you're finding that your manufacturing clients are sharing in common that is a real problem that you need to go in and deal with or help them deal with right away.
Well, it's along the lines of collaboration, but it's really collaborating internally. And some of these sound like soft skills, like I'm sure, to folks that are thinking manufacturing. Well, what about manufacturing efficiencies? What I find is many times it's the small things that kill them. So the things that sound not important, like internal collaboration. And so in this case, manufacturing is not necessarily on the same page as customer service, and customer service is not on the same page as engineering, and engineering is not on the same page as new product development. So everyone is doing their best within their scope, but because they're not all working together, we're not necessarily gaining the efficiencies that we could gain, and getting the service levels as high as they could be. So, they're suffering just because the right hand doesn't necessarily know what the left hand is doing, even though it seems like they do.
Right. Let's shift gears just a little bit. Last month, I think, is kind of a year-end type of newsletter. I noticed you came out with the trends that are really people have to watch for this year. Let's talk about some of those major supply chain trends looking forward into 2015. And this might be a good time, too. You might want to take out your pencils and pens or whatever it is that you need to do in order to take some notes out there, because these are going to be some important things that people need to be mindful of, and it's going to help them along the way. So let's talk about these one by one.
All right, excellent. Well, the first we referred to is the Amazon effect. And what I mean there is customers have elevated expectations. They truly are expecting that we're going to start providing Amazon-like service. And so 24/7 availability, quick deliveries, same-day deliveries. It's all becoming the norm in manufacturing and distribution. And so we have to step up our game in order to meet those challenges.
Okay.
The next one that we have here is supply chain technology and big data. So what that means is that another problem that I commonly see is that executives are overloaded with data. I mean, we probably all received thousands of messages already today via email and billboards along the way, all sorts of messages. Right. And the question is, how do we put that into something that we can use to make better management decisions and to improve our business performance? And so a couple of those ways is something that's called big data, which really means how do we get to that data and how do we make it into something meaningful for decisions. And so there's some supply chain technologies that oftentimes you can leverage as well as you're sifting through data to make better use of it. So that's the second one.
Okay.
Another key trend that is absolutely occurring is reshoring, nearshoring, onshoring. There's lots of names for it, but in essence, how do we bring manufacturing closer back to where our customers are? So let's just say our customers are here in the U.S. or somewhere in North America. Then what I'm seeing is a definite trend towards bringing back manufacturing to the U.S. and to nearshoring to Mexico, Canada, places like that, where we can produce at the same cost overall. The labor costs certainly aren't going to be necessarily on par, but when you add up the total cost to outsource, the costs are close to on par today, unless it's a really small commodity product. That's going to go somewhere else. But aside from that, if there's any value-added component whatsoever, it's going to make good sense to have something that's located close by, not just for these quick deliveries, but also because better control, you can it's all about time. You can develop new products quicker and launch them. You can be closer to your customers.
Let me ask you a question. Everybody wants to see jobs come back into certainly on the West Coast, but back to the United States where manufacturing lived, and it really, it was the foundation of our industrialized society, and it seems like everybody went to work in a factory once upon a time, 50, 60 years ago. But at any rate, what I'm interested in, is there another reason rather than just simply... Well, you kind of touched on it. The costs are starting to come more in line. Yep. Is that because of higher taxes and tariffs, and or what is the reason really for those costs now starting to balance out?
Well, part of it is the labor cost is increasing in places like China.
Okay.
The other piece of it, but that's one of many variables.
Right.
You're right. There are taxes. There's a lot of hidden costs, so you have to protect your intellectual property, and there's transportation costs, and that can be very significant.
Sure.
There's a plethora of hidden costs. If you add up all of the costs that it takes, the materials that they have to use, and you have to do quality testing, you have to have people here that travel back and forth many times. Many times you have to have people on site to make sure that the quality actually is achieved.
Right.
Especially with the Amazon effect taking place, more and more you need to have quick shipments.
That's a good point, yeah.
You have to have more inventory for sure. If you have boats on the water, that's all sorts of inventory being tied up, which is a direct effect on cash flow.
Interesting point.
So there's a myriad of...
So the Amazon effect has had effect in a number of different ways, really, when you look at it. So we've already talked about collaboration a little bit. Supply chain risk.
Yeah, so one of the things with a global supply chain, there's somewhat risk at every corner. So you don't want to become unable to make decisions, but you want to make sure you're aware of the key risks. I always think about what I find my most successful customers do is look at what is critical to their business. Don't worry about everything because it's near impossible to do, but just what's critical to their business. So therefore, in this case, which risks are most likely to happen and are going to matter if they happen. They're going to affect their business negatively. And so looking at, if you're in an area that has natural disasters, like in California, we have to be more concerned about earthquakes, but in various areas and countries, there are other things that happen in terms of natural disasters. Is it a war-driven place? Is there port problems getting in and out? Who are our partners and what kind of, there's lots of data security risks. We just have to look at the news with Target and, the list goes on. So we've heard a lot about the Mexican border and, loads getting stolen and those kinds of things. So it's, you should still do it, make the best business decision, but it's figuring those risks in and making sure that you have thought through processes, backup processes, and how can you minimize your risk so that it's a sound business decision?
A lot more to think about. And there again, it kind of comes with living in a more volatile society and volatile world. There's more to be mindful of. We've already talked also too. We talked a little bit about talent shortage, and that's a huge trend coming up in supply chain this year. And we've touched on that so much so far on Manufacturers Corner with regard to talent. Sustainability is one that we haven't really talked about, though.
Yeah, sustainability is starting to increase in importance. It's been talked about for several years, but it's starting to show up more and more. And that is how do we become more environmentally friendly, which is also another reason to think about coming back to the U.S. because there's a lot of pollution, et cetera, in other places.
Right.
So environmentally friendly, but how do we also make that into a win-win where we use less materials, we make less waste, we also reduce our costs. So the idea here is to be sustainable and to be, to make it into a win-win. So for example, in the example I gave earlier in terms of redesigning packaging, it's a great opportunity. Redesigning packaging in a way that satisfy and improves what the customer gets, but in a way that has less materials or is smarter in terms of its configuration so that we don't waste as much fuel, as much packaging materials, and which also goes back to the environment.
You deal with companies of various different sizes. Given all the trends that you've just kind of laid out for us, and you can go onto Lisa's website and find out more about that and read the newsletter. We're going to give that information out in just a little bit. Regardless of a company's age, regardless of their infrastructure and where they're at with respect to their business, can all companies kind of look at these trends and make some inroads to helping with regard to their supply chain management, help to kind of mitigate or reduce those costs and improve regardless of where they're at in their business?
Absolutely. I actually work with clients that are, let's say, 5 million to multi-billion-dollar companies. And what I find is the trends that I've been talking about today exist across the board. Now, there's slight variations in how they manifest and how you'll go about say solving them or leveraging opportunities. But in essence, they're the same trends. It doesn't seem to matter in terms of size. Now, if it's a global multi-billion-dollar company, clearly they're going to have a lot of global issues, whereas a small local manufacturer won't have as many global issues, but they should be thinking about exporting. They should be, and most likely one of their suppliers or their supplier's supplier comes from a global environment. So they end up with the same types of issues.
Last question, we've got just a couple of minutes left. What is the one thing that keeps you up at night? Maybe something that we haven't talked about or touched on, and maybe something that your clients aren't even aware of that they're facing down the line. What is the one thing that really keeps you up at night?
Well, you know, I think it's not having an innovative environment. If my clients could transfer their thinking into more of an innovative process, they would be far more successful. And it's not as easy as saying just implement an innovative environment. You have to allow for mistakes and things that are not necessarily common today.
Very, very good. Lisa Anderson, if someone out there is in need of some assistance maybe with their supply chain management needs, what can they do? Where do they go and how can they reach it?
All right, well, on the screen, I have listed my contact information.
Okay.
But you can go to my website. I have a plethora of articles, free resources on supply chain management, people, processes, and systems. And it's at www.lma-consultinggroup.com. And I also send out articles of interest and the latest trends and that type of information via my Twitter and LinkedIn.
Very, very good. So you can tap into that resource there. And if you have any questions, you can also reach us at Manufacturers Corner. And Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
That's it for this edition of Manufacturers Corner. Thanks again to my guest, Lisa Anderson, president of LMA Consulting Group. We've been talking about supply chain management and the trends moving forward and any issues that might be on the rise. You need to get in touch with Lisa, or you can just get in touch with us here at Manufacturers Corner and we'll pass you along. Now, if you're a manufacturer, policymaker, or educator and you'd like to take part in our discussions as a guest or member of a future panel discussion, please complete our contact form on the contact page, or you can call us at 951-697-3098. And you can also visit us at manufacturerscorner.com, where we are welcoming advertisers. So if you like what you see here and what we do here, you're welcome to give us a call and find out about sponsorship packages and programs. We'd be happy to talk with you about that. And we'd also be happy to put you on our email, our contact list, so you can get all the information on any updates. Manufacturerscorner.com is the website. The number is 951-697-3098. And we'll make sure, once again, to put you on that email list to update you about all our future programs and events. For Manufacturers Corner, I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
This program was brought to you by the following proud sponsors: Paulson Manufacturing, saving the eyes and lives of workers and first responders by manufacturing the highest quality and most reliable safety protective gear in the world. And by the Alltech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, creating powerful and innovative marketing strategies that deliver exponential returns.